All right, thank you, Guido. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I've got some slides to run through for us all today. Okay. So thank you everyone for coming out today. As you know, the theme of the talk today is sell more of what you grow. And the vessel through which we're going to be exploring this theme today is the Small Organic Farmer Marketing Toolkit. So the toolkit is a really excellent resource developed by CCOF in partnership with CAFF. So it is both a PDF of all these slides. So it's about 144 pages total. It's quite a long document. I recommend you downloading the PDF. It's quite large to print. However, it does come with a companion file called the worksheets, and the worksheets are about 25 pages. And I do encourage you all to download those and print those out. The worksheets have some really good text prompts. And essentially, they're prompts to help you with your marketing, your social media posts, your websites, etc. I view it as sort of like a journal. So, yeah, I definitely recommend you download this PDF and then download the companion worksheets with it as well. Before I get started with the content, I just want to acknowledge our sponsors today. So, like I said, this was a toolkit developed by CCOF, made possible with funds from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and a grant called the Organic Market Development Grant, also known as OMDG. So thank you to them for helping develop this excellent resource. And then just to introduce myself really quickly, my name is Brandon. I've been an organic contractor with CAFF for about a year now. Prior to joining the team at CAFF, I was an organic farmer for approximately 15 years, mostly growing vegetables. I have experience in CSAs, farmers markets, wholesale, restaurant sales, pretty much every sales channel we'll go through today. So I'll share some personal experiences with those. And then I'm really excited to introduce my friend and colleague, Brooklyn, today. Brooklyn is a marketing consultant with Grapevine Local Food Marketing. Brooklyn and I met while we were both working at the Ecology Center, a farm here in Orange County, where I'm based. So Brooklyn at the time was working full time with the marketing team, and I was still a full time farmer at that point. So we connected then, and I'm really happy to be doing talks with this or talks like this with Brooklyn now. Um, so I'll speak a little bit about our experience there. The Ecology Center has a really excellent example of an on-farm retail store. So I'll speak a little bit about that during our sales channels. So just a quick overview of the presentation. I'll take over the first half, mostly talking about sales channels, and then Brooklyn will come in with some marketing channels. At the end, we are going to do a quick website audit by Brooklyn. We had a lot of really excellent submissions. We did have to narrow it down to one, so thank you to everyone who submitted. Um, I will let Brooklyn do the honors of introducing our website at the end. We are going to take a quick 5-minute break to complete a survey. So because CCOF developed this toolkit, they really want some survey results from all of our participants. So please take about 5 minutes, complete these questions at the end. It's super helpful for us and for CCOF. And then, of course, we'll save about 10 minutes at the end for a Q&A with Brooklyn and myself. So please go ahead and enter those into the Q&A box, and then we can queue those up at the end. Okay, so I'm going to jump in. We've got a lot of content to cover, so I'll get through it as quickly as I can. Um, Overview, of course, the toolkit is designed to provide you with concepts, strategies, and insights needed to successfully market your organic products, boost your sales, and expand your customer base. So these are the topics we'll go through today. We're going to cover how to develop your mission statement, how to identify your target audiences. I'll go through a handful of sales channels to explore, and then I'll hand it over to Brooklyn to explore some marketing channels. And then, of course, I will share a few resources at the end. And then Brooklyn also has some really excellent resources that they've developed through Grapevine. So I really encourage you all to check those out. There's some really great comparison tools. And then, of course, in the full PDF document, the 144 something pages, there are a lot of additional resources in that PDF that I will not have time to cover today. So please go ahead and do download that full PDF, and then you can take a look at the additional resources in that document. So first, I just want to go through how to use the toolkit. I also just want to mention, I think it's really important to follow the steps and try not to jump ahead too much as you go through these steps in order. So I think it's really important to define your farm's identity first and identify your target audience. So know your customers first, because those two things are really going to help determine which sales and marketing channels you choose. So um, the customers that you sell to is really going to help inform which marketing channels you end up using. So I really encourage you to focus on those two steps first before you jump into the marketing component. Um, and then, of course, we'll go through those marketing channels to help you figure out how to maximize your visibility as a farm operation. Okay, so of course, I think we're all gathered here today because we understand how important marketing is. So marketing is a powerful tool that helps farmers connect with their customers, build a loyal following, and grow their businesses. Marketing can help you increase awareness, build relationships, highlight your unique value as a farm enterprise, and of course, can help you increase sales through marketing and different sales platforms. Um, and I just want to note, I think that, for myself personally as a farmer, it's really easy to just get hyper focused on your own operation. We spend so much time working on our land and working on our projects and working on our, unique individual operations. We can sometimes forget that the public is not as intimate with our operations as we are. So I think it's helpful to take a step back and really view marketing as a way to tell your story and really view marketing as a way to help connect your customer with that project and that mission that you're working on. Um, and just really take a step back and remember that your customers are not as intimate with your operation as you are. And really try to view your marketing from the customer's perspective. Okay, so first we're going to go through how to define your farm's identity. So your mission statement. Your mission statement is a powerful tool. Your mission statement should clearly and concisely explain your purpose as a farm. It should focus on your goals and communicate your values to others. It should embody your purpose and your commitment. And then, of course, it can explain your impact to your customers, community, investors, and donors. Couple important things about your mission statement. So there's really three big topics you want to cover in your mission statement. You want to clearly define what you do, how you do it, and why you do it. So what you do might seem really obvious. However, a lot of our farm business names don't necessarily explicitly state what we do or what we grow. Our business names might be more generic. It might be related to like a local landmark or a geographical term. We don't always have what we grow in our business name. So in your mission statement, I think it's really important to define what it is that you grow. Um, and of course, that can change and evolve over time. So it's much easier to update your mission statement as you grow and expand your business and the crops you grow. It's much easier than rebranding or renaming your business every time you change it. So it's totally okay to have a more simplified, uh, generic farm name that does not include what you grow. But in that mission statement, it's really important to define that. How you do it, I think, is becoming increasingly important. Um, I think as customer awareness grows, customers really want to know how you are farming. So whether you're growing organically or regeneratively or no-till, customers are really aware of that stuff now. They understand what those things mean. And I think it's really important to highlight how you grow. Remember, as a small business, your customers are really looking for businesses with values that they identify with and align with. So how you do it is becoming increasingly important. Why you do it, again, your customers are really looking to identify with your business and find a business whose values they align with. So why you do it is, I think, is equally important. So whether you do it for environmental reasons, or community reasons, or maybe for family legacy reasons. So Super important to state those three things clearly in your mission statement. Um, so your mission statement should clarify your purpose, reflect on your impact, define your products and values, and then of course keep it brief and evolving. So as I mentioned, your brand name or your logo might be more difficult or more expensive to change. Your mission statement is just text, on a website or wherever you have it. It's a lot easier to edit and revise your mission statement as you grow and evolve your business and the crops you grow. And then last but not least, just a little bit about how to share your mission statement. So make sure your mission statement is visible to your customers. You can incorporate it into your website, into your email marketing, into an email signature. It should be short enough to be used as an elevator pitch. So we're looking at one to two sentences, maybe three sentences at the most. Um, and then I think you can use your mission statement to help you craft a much shorter slogan. So your mission statement might be too long for like a farmer's market banner, for example, or a banner across the top of your website. So you can really use that mission statement to help refine and craft a much shorter slogan for your business. Um, and then, yeah, just remember to keep it short. I also do some farm consulting, and whenever I explain to people what I do, it can tend to run into a paragraph and people can tend to tune out. So I really recommend you craft that into a short, um, two to three sentences at the most, as you're refining that mission statement. Okay, and then once you have your mission statement developed, you can really help use that to develop a brand. So a lot of people have some confusion about what exactly is a brand and how it differs from a logo or the mission statement. So your brand is more of an intangible asset that sets your business and your products apart. So think of your brand as more of the vibe of your business. So your brand should effectively convey your message, lead to greater brand recognition, and appeal to customers. It should reflect your overall business identity. So, if you're a small scale grower, you really want that to come across as, natural, earthy, something that farmers are going to identify as a farm. If you're appealing to more institutional buyers, like let's say you're just selling to school districts or large distributors, you might want to go for a more polished and refined look. So as you identify your target audience, that's really going to help you develop your brand as well. Okay, so let's quickly talk about how to identify your target audiences. Your target audience is the specific group of customers or businesses that you would want to sell to. So like I said, you can focus on direct to consumer at farmers markets or CSA. You can focus on institutional buyers like school districts, or large distributors. And then, like I said earlier, I think defining that target audience early in this process is really important, because that's going to help you tailor your message directly to them. So if you're going to direct to consumer through farmers markets and wholesale, being very active on Instagram or social media is going to help you out. You can do live posts, you can do Instagram stories about, what's good in the field these days, what you're growing, what you have at the market. And then, of course, if you're selling to institutional buyers, that social media presence might be less relevant. It might be more about having a really polished and refined website, having an availability list that's always ready to go. So really spend some time honing in on this and focusing on this first before you move on to the marketing channels. And then, like I said, your target audience can be very broad or very niche. So you can say broadly, I'm going to sell directly to consumers or institutions, or niche, you can say I'm going to sell directly to this natural food store or health food store, or a specific type of trendy restaurant in your area. So I want to spend some quick time on this slide here. I think this slide is really important as you move forward and try to decide whether you want to go direct to consumer or business to business through wholesale accounts. For the sake of time today, I'm going to focus on direct to consumer. I think for small scale diversified growers, direct to consumer is the way to go. Direct to, excuse me, direct to consumer is great because you can focus on individual sales. So as a diversified grower, You can do an order that is one case of each item you grow. You can load it up. You can take it to a restaurant, or a natural food store. You have flexibility in that. You have pricing flexibility. You set your own prices. A lot of times, wholesale buyers are going to set the prices for you based on the market, and what they're getting in the marketplace. Direct to consumer is also great because it builds customer relationships. So if you have a variety of outlets like farmers markets and CSA, um, you can kind of cross market those platforms. So if you are selling at the farmers markets, you can advertise your CSA to your farmers market customers. And there's sort of a lot of cross marketing there. You can focus on smaller orders so you can be more responsive. You can take a couple cases to a restaurant when they need it. And then last but not least on this slide, before you choose direct to consumer, really think about the marketing effort it's going to take. So direct to consumer, you are going to be doing all of your own email marketing, social media posts, availability lists, etc. Really make sure you have the time and capacity and skill set to be a DIY marketer. Um, do you have the time in the evenings to make those social media posts or send out those emails? It is a lot more effort than going wholesale. I think it's worth it in the long run for small growers. You do get a higher price, you get a lot more flexibility, but just really focus on that time and capacity and skill set piece before you jump into direct to consumer. Okay, so now I'm going to hop into the sales channels before I transfer over to Brooklyn to go through some marketing channels. So I'm going to focus on five of these channels for today. I'm going to go through on-farm retail store, farmers markets, farm stands, UPIC, and CSAs, and then I'll transfer it over to Brooklyn for online and website stores. Um, so another consideration before you jump into direct to consumer, this column over here on the right, I think is super important to ask yourself these questions before you jump in. So with direct to consumer, you are going to be doing a lot of your own deliveries. So you need to ask yourself, will you need to purchase a truck? If so, will it be refrigerated? So can you use just a regular box truck? Do you need a refrigerated truck? When I first started out, I just started with a cargo trailer. So I had a small cargo trailer. I insulated it. I towed it behind a Subaru for all my deliveries, and that got me by for the first couple of years. So there are solutions. Obviously investing in a truck and especially a refrigerator truck is very expensive. Um, so just think about how you're going to be making those deliveries, what your climate is, if you need refrigeration. And then think about again your time and capacity to make deliveries. So will you need to hire a driver? Can you spend a whole day away from your farm doing deliveries? What's your capacity to spend time away from the farm? And then, of course, what type of storage is necessary? So, do you have access to cold storage? Will you need to build it? Do your products need cold storage? A lot of direct-to-consumer operations need cold storage or some sort of storage in the long run. Wholesale operations can pack in the field and get picked up by the wholesaler directly in the field. So, as a direct-to-consumer operation, you're going to need some sort of storage. So, whether it's refrigerated or dry, think about that. And then, of course, is your dry storage clean and rodent proof? Okay, so now we're going to jump into the on-farm retail store. In this conversation, it's a little confusing because we have on-farm retail store and farm stand. So a lot of farm stands are on site. But for the sake of this talk, um, on-farm retail stores we're going to talk about are exactly how it sounds. So it's on-farm. And then for farm stands, we're going to specifically talk about off-site farm stands so that are remote from your business location. So if it's an on-site farm stand, we're going to classify it as an on-farm retail store for the sake of this discussion. Um, so there are some distinct advantages to on-farm retail stores or on-site farm stands. So there are no transportation costs, so the consumers come directly to you to pick up the product on your farm. There's no standard packing or grading. So wholesalers will typically have standard packing or grading options. As an on-farm retailer, you get to decide what those are. So it's your store. You are going to be doing the packing, um, however you would like. It's an experiential buying experience for the customer. So On the customer end, this is great. I mean, customers love coming to the farm. They love seeing the farm. They love seeing the tractors drive by. They love seeing livestock if you have livestock. So I think the advantages to this one are really heavy on the customer side. They really enjoy this experience. And of course, it's instant credibility for locally grown. Um, and then, of course, there are some distinct challenges to on-farm retail stores. So, excuse me, you're going to want to really consider geographically where your farm is located. So, not all farmers want visitors to their farm. And if you have a private driveway or you share a private road with your neighbors might not want traffic on your farm. So really think about, where you are, who you're sharing access with. And then, of course, a lot of farmers view their farm as their own personal sanctuary and they don't want the public on their farm. And that's totally fine, but really keep that in mind as you're considering opening up traffic on your farm. And then, of course, like I mentioned earlier, Brooklyn and I work together at the Ecology Center. It's a great example of an on-farm retail store. Um, One thing of note is that you're going to need to maintain your facilities. So at that operation, they had a full-time maintenance staff of about 2 to 3 people. These are contractor level maintenance people that can fix plumbing, electrical, refrigeration, anything that might break. You need to be extremely responsive to that as you have customers shopping. So again, really think about your time and capacity. Can you respond quickly to anything that breaks, especially plumbing, refrigeration, electrical, etc.? And then also think about staffing. So if you have a full service retail store, you are going to need to staff it. Of course, you can do some sort of honor system or Dropbox, but if you want the full service experience, you're going to need to think about, are you going to have staff? Do you have friends or family that can help you staff? Are you going to need to hire in staffing to help you run that store while you're busy farming? Of course. Okay, now we're going to jump into farmers markets. I think farmers markets are great for small scale growers. One of the reasons I think it's great is that it's probably the um, lowest cost in terms of entry point. So you can buy a shade canopy, a tablecloths, and a banner and really get started. It's really low cost of investment to get started. Um, and of course, there's no minimum sales requirements, no standard packing or grading. You are going to have access to valuable market information because you're going to be talking directly to your customers. So you're going to get feedback, what customers are interested in, what they might want that you're not growing. So that instant market access is really important. You can advertise and promote your other outlets. So you can advertise and promote your CSA at the farmers market. Um, farmers market customers seeing your really great, consistent product week after week is a really good way to market your CSA. And then, of course, it's a really great form of indirect marketing. So, while your sales might be low day to day at a farmer's market, a lot of times that investment in the time you spend at the farmer's market can come back to you in the form of, maybe someone bought a couple bunches of carrots and they were really impressed by the quality. And a couple weeks later, they sign up for your CSA. So, really think of it as while it's time spent selling, it's also time spent marketing. And that return on your investment might not be immediate, but it will come back to you eventually in the form of, CSA customers that met you at the farmers market, etc. Then, of course, there are some challenges to farmers markets. So there can be a waiting list to get in, especially with the really popular markets. Some markets might not want multiple vendors selling the same thing. So if you are a veggie grower or a flower grower, you might want to visit these markets before applying and just making sure they're not oversaturated with uh, veggies or flowers. Market managers will have rules about setup and breakdown, so that'll impact your schedule. It can create additional staffing challenges. So to make it worth your while, you might want to do a Saturday and a Sunday market, and that can add an additional workday to an already very busy farming schedule. So if you are already farming 5 days a week, really think about your time and capacity to work a 6 or 7 day week. Or if you need to hire a farmer's market staffer, or if you have a friend or family member that can help you. So just really think about that. These markets are typically a full day. So just think about if you can afford to spend that whole day away from the farm selling your stuff. Okay, now we're going to jump into farm stands. I'm going to skip ahead to this slide here. So farm stand, for the sake of this discussion, is uh, we're discussing it in terms of an off-site farm stand. So this is a farm stand set up away from your farm. This is really great for farmers who are set up in a more rural location, who customers might not have immediate access to. So if you're in a more rural area, you can set up a farm stand in town where there's more traffic. A really great example I've seen of this is farms partnering with another popular brick and mortar store in their town. So you could partner with either a coffee shop or a bakery and set up a cooler inside of another brick and mortar, with your branding on the cooler, have a nice glass case in front and market your product that way. Um, it's a really good way to build relationships with other businesses in your town, and sell your product that way. So the advantages are direct to consumer sales, increase your visibility by having a farm stand in a high traffic area or another business. You're going to build relationships both with customers and other businesses in your area. Um, Freshness and quality, it's an educational and a marketing opportunity. Um, Community support, if you set up a farm stand in a high traffic area, a lot more customers are gonna know about your business. And of course, it can increase and diversify your income streams. And then, of course, there's quite a few challenges with a farm stand. So weather dependency. So really think about, is your product ready during a time of the year that's going to be pleasant to do shopping at a farm stand? So if your product is ready during the peak heat of the summer, are people going to want to go to the farm stand during the peak heat of the summer? Is your product going to hold okay at a farm stand? Do you need refrigeration? Is there electricity? Can you access refrigeration at this offsite farm stand? And then really think about your limited hours and availability. So, um, is your is your product ready during peak tourism season? Like, is there going to be traffic? And then also think about the initial investment in terms of labor and then physical infrastructure. So, do you need to build or buy some sort of shed to house the farm stand? Do you need to buy a cooler to put in another business? And then do you need labor to staff that farm stand? And then, of course, think about competition. So, are there other people in your town also doing this that you would compete directly with? And then think about the logistical challenges of transporting that product back and forth. Okay, moving ahead to U-Pick. U-Pick, I think, has some distinct advantages and disadvantages. I've personally, and from talking to other growers, I've heard lots of both positive and negative experiences. So, um, I think when it comes down to it, it really comes down to your personality as a grower and as a business. So, like I mentioned earlier, do you want the public coming onto your farm? So the advantages are increased revenue. So instead of paying people to pick your crop, people are paying you to pick your crop. So less money on labor. Higher customer engagement. So there's nothing quite as valuable as the classic strawberry patch selfie going viral on Instagram. Everyone sees your beautiful strawberry patch. That's some really good free marketing. It's just people posting pictures of your U-Pick on their social media platforms. Like I said, reduce labor costs. People are paying you to come pick. It's a great marketing opportunity. You can market your CSA or any farm dinners if you do that. And then, of course, fresh produce. There's nothing quite like picking the produce, getting in your car, and having your children eat all the berries by the time you get home. So very popular on the customer end. Of course, there's some potential challenges with that. So weather dependency. So like the farm stand, think about if your crop is ready uh, during quality weather. So if it's ready during the peak of the summer, people might not want to come out during the peak heat of the summer. Or if it's ready during the spring and you have a rainy spring season, they might not want to come out during the rain or other weather. So while you might save labor on customer support, or excuse me, while you might save labor on picking and harvesting, you will spend more on customer support. So you'll have some sort of customer representative helping them pick and where to find the crops. And then crop management, I think it's really important to manage your crop well, especially if you have other outlets. You don't want to just open up the whole farm. So if you have strawberries, you might want to fence off a certain portion of those strawberries that are available for you pick, and then you're saving other parts of your crop for wholesale or CSAs or farmers markets. And then potential damage to crops. So, inexperienced pickers like customers might damage your strawberry or blueberry plants if they're picked incorrectly. And then, like I said earlier, seasonal and peak time constraints. So, do people want to come out to your farm when that crop is ready? Okay, last but not least, and then I'll hand it over to Brooklyn. Uh, I'll go quickly through CSAs. CSAs are my personal favorite outlet as a grower. Um, I really appreciate the CSA model primarily because of the steady cash flow. So as a grower, I always had my CSA dues due at the beginning of the season. So I would have those due in March or April. CSA would typically start in May and go through the summer and into the fall. And as a grower, I really appreciated that steady cash flow. So as you know, at the beginning of the season, you're purchasing seed, fertilizer, inputs, amendments, and having that cash flow at the beginning of the season is really helpful. And then, of course, I also set up a payment plan for people who could not afford to pay upfront in one lump sum at the beginning of the season. So having that payment plan was really predictable for me. So I knew exactly when that income was coming in throughout the season. So as a grower, super helpful, cannot recommend it enough. And then, of course, customer loyalty. There's nothing quite like receiving a consistent, abundant, beautiful box every week. I think that is a quick way to get a customer for life. That CSA can change a person's life in terms of how they eat, how they cook. They're going to begin to eat more seasonally. They're going to eat stuff they've never had before. And that person can really quickly become a customer for life. Predictable demand. You know how many boxes you're selling each week. You know how many boxes to pack. Um, there's nothing quite like the heartbreak of the waste you get from doing farmers markets. So you go to the farmers markets, you have so much product because you want to look full and abundant, and you might come home with half that product, and it might all go into the compost. And as a grower, that can be really devastating. So I love the CSA model because you know exactly how many boxes you're packing. And then community connection. Um, I tried to always do CSA member only events. So I would have CSA member volunteer days, um, or a CSA member only dinners. And then I tried to always do a CSA member only harvest fair each year. So we would do like a cider press each year and invite the CSA customers out to the farm. Um, okay, last but not least, challenges. High customer expectations. So as the sort of curated CSA model is growing, so we're talking about models where the operation is buying in product from a bunch of different growers. So they might not be growing all of it or any of it. They're buying in from a lot of different growers. Expectations are very high. So make sure your crop planning is dialed in. Make sure that box is full each week. Um, Counter to it's a quick way to gain customers. It's also a quick way to lose customers. If your box is not full every week, that customer is probably not going to last long and they're probably going to look for something else. It's very time and labor intensive. So think about whether you need to hire a full or part-time admin staff position to manage the back end. Brooklyn is going to talk next about some CSA management platforms to help you manage it. But as you get up in numbers, I think maybe 50 members or less, you can manage it with spreadsheets and more DIY. As you get up in numbers, up to say above 50 or above 100, you're definitely going to want a management platform. So Brooklyn will go through those. And then just think about it in terms of market limitations. So do you have other outlets? So be careful about going all in on the CSA before you know that you can fill it. So if your goal is 100 and you don't quite get there, think about other outlets you might need to take on, such as farmers markets or wholesale, before you go all in with the CSA model. Okay, so I'm going to pass it over to Brooklyn now, and she's going to go through some of these CSA management platforms.
Awesome. Thanks, Brandon. That was wonderful. Um, I'm going to start my slides here. I'm happy to be here. So, thanks again to Kath and Brandon for having me speak in this webinar. Before I start off, if you're not familiar with Grapevine, we're a small women-led marketing agency. We help farmers, food hubs, farm-to-school procurement programs, and other local food folks leverage marketing and e-commerce. And something unique about our team is all of us have a background in local food systems or farming. One of my colleagues is a farmer herself in upstate New York. And this really just informs the way that we help farmers solve problems, strategize, and also just relate to your lived reality as a farmer. And similarly to Brandon, I'm going to be covering a lot of information. And I just want to remind you that we're going to be sending out this presentation afterwards, where you can explore a lot of my suggestions and also a lot of the resources that I'm linking here on my slides at your own pace. And another reminder that marketing is a long game, so pace yourself with these suggestions and take it in bite-sized pieces. I'll be going in order of importance for what to dial in first for a successful marketing strategy to hopefully help you know where to focus your time and efforts. Farmers are definitely some of the busiest people that I know, but even just making like little changes over time is better than nothing at all. So, without further ado, let's chip away at this together. So, piggybacking off of what Brandon was saying about CSAs, luckily there's a lot of amazing software out there now to help you manage your CSA. And so, listed here in the slide, I have some of my top platform recommendations. And all of these platforms are ones that we've personally partnered with at Grapevine. We've also taken the time to interview all of them about their features so that you don't have to. And as you all probably know, every CSA is a little different from the next. So making sure that you find a platform that's going to work with your needs is crucial. And if you're feeling overwhelmed and not sure where to start, I encourage you to check out our CSA sales platform comparison post here. Where you'll find extensive charts like the one that I've included here on the slide, just comparing all of the different features within each platform. And we also specialize here at Grapevine in helping farms decide on which platform is going to be best for them if you still feel like you have questions after reading through the comparison post. And then we also build what we call companion websites for a lot of these platforms because almost all of them don't support a full website. And so we're here to help if that's something you're looking for assistance with. And then speaking of platforms and websites, one of the first questions we always encourage our clients to ask themselves when they're considering marketing is, do you have a website? And if so, is it actually worth sending people to? Because if you think the answer is no, or you're unsure, then almost all of the marketing efforts you're making are probably going to fizzle out soon. Um, or give you little to no return on your investment if there's nowhere for people to go or convert or take action from that marketing. And so when you're thinking about optimizing your website for something like a high conversion rate, here are some things that you'll want to consider. So before I dive into these tips, I just want to say that almost all of these suggestions will also improve what's called SEO, also known as search engine optimization on your website, which basically just means that these are things that are going to help you show up in search results when people are searching for farms or products like yours, especially on a local level in your area. And fixing a lot of these small but key details can do a lot of the heavy lifting for you when it comes to awareness and engagement for your farm. And I'll definitely touch more on SEO tips later, but you're going to want to begin by clearly defining your business goals. So I know Brandon was talking about this a little bit, but like for example, what are you trying to achieve and what are the areas of your business that you're trying to grow? So if you're selling locally via delivery, pickup, or drop points, but say you also have a presence at the farmer's market and you're offering nationwide shipping, are all of those options things that are clear on your website? Or do your customers have to like dig through your website or access your social media to find that information? And if you feel like that's the case, then you'll probably want to think about reorganizing or including more content on your website. Um, And if you're specifically trying to grow nationwide shipping, making sure that that's like the most obvious and clear call to action on your homepage or whatever is your biggest business goal, making sure that that is like a clear top thing on your homepage and that there's like a button or a link or a way for people to take action on that call to action. Um, Also, think about what's going to work best for you as you grow. So, maybe you're struggling to reconcile inventory across sales channels. I see this with a lot of my clients. Maybe it's that you need to reconsider the platform you're using, or maybe you need just sort of like an overhaul to reorganize your content and your inventory. And that's definitely something that we help out with. Um, and make sure that you're just defining every single feature you would need to help you succeed, grow, and stay organized. And then you'll want to think about clearly defining your user's needs. So I like to reference the five W's and the H. So who, what, when, where, why, and how. And Brandon was touching on this that it seems simple, but a lot of people, like a lot of farmers, forget the details because they're so used to their own story or don't think it's unique or interesting. But those are definitely the details that you really want to hold on to and dig into for your clients, or for your customers, sorry. And so the questions you'll want to ask yourself are that you'll want to be providing information on your site are where are you located? What do you sell? When do you sell or when do you ship if you offer shipping? When are you available? Why would people buy from you? And who are you and what's your story? And so this type of information would go on like an about the farm page, or just somewhere that's easily accessible from your main navigation on a website. And then here in the slide, I have a strong example of a tagline that's at the top of like a previous client's website when you first enter. And this includes their where, what, why, which is regenerative in this case, and how to shop with them. And where Brandon was, excuse me, where Brandon was talking about creating your mission statement, this is sort of like tag similar to a tagline and just like that short, brief information that you want to get out to people so that they can take action, know where you're located, know what you're all about. And then this might not be applicable to everybody if you don't have e-commerce or, nationwide shipping. But if you do, figuring out your shipping options and which carrier you're going to use is going to be super important. And then asking yourself if it's easy for people to check out or if the checkout process is something that's frustrating and people are going to abandon their carts. So, for example, I have clients who offer local pickup and delivery, but maybe those options aren't super clearly laid out in the checkout page. And so, say a customer orders local pickup, but then the automated email comes to them and says, thanks for your order. It'll be shipped in 2 days. And they're like, wait, I'm confused. I thought I ordered local pickup. And then you have to communicate with them. And so making sure that all of that is set up correctly will really help to save you time and also improve your customer experience. And oftentimes, farms have to use like app integrations in order to make that checkout process seamless where they're offering local pickup and delivery. And that's also something that we help figure out and set up for farms. And then answering all of these questions can really help you decide which website platform is going to be the right fit for you and is also going to allow you to grow with it. We have another resource post on comparing website platforms, and you'll want to choose the platform based on those goals that you just defined. And so, some of my top examples of website platforms that we love to use here at Grapevine are Squarespace, which is great for something like a companion site that I mentioned. If you already have like your separate online sales platform for your CSA with one of those CSA platforms I mentioned. Shopify is definitely the gold standard for something like a turnkey e-commerce website. If you didn't have a CSA sales platform, in the example I'm going to show here at the end is actually a client who had an e-commerce online store and a CSA, and so they used Shopify as their companion site instead of Squarespace, for example. Um, Square is a good e-commerce option as well, especially if you're already set up there and you're using their POS, say for like farmers markets or in-person events, and you don't want to learn a new platform or switch to Shopify necessarily. Um, and then Gray's Cart is the gold standard if you need variable weight and pricing by the pound. Shopify does have a newer feature that offers unit pricing, or you can accomplish variable weights for special cuts with an app integration. But again, I would reserve that for special cuts only. So if you need variable weight or pricing by the pound for all of your products, I would definitely consider looking into Grace Cart. And then I'm going to go into some more key components for a successful website. So, starting off with an easy and clean navigation. And what I mean by navigation is simply just those tabs at the top of your site on your homepage. Um, You'll want to make sure that you're keeping them clear and concise. We recommend five basic pages that should live in your navigation, and those are typically your home page, your shop page, your about, your ways to shop, and a contact page. And of course, these can have different names based on your farm or branding. If you have more than five tabs, we recommend you start nesting other pages in the appropriate tab. So, for example, putting something like a ways to shop, a contact, and then maybe like an FAQ page under the About tab. And we also have a resource post on how to write a successful FAQ page for your website. So that'll be linked here as well. Or you can think about putting certain like product categories under a shop tab instead of having like all of your categories in the main navigation, for example. Um, Other great pages to consider for SEO are something like a blog, a recipe center, and even an event page if you have events. And then going into some more content recommendations for your homepage and throughout your site. You'll want to include your mission statement and just be sure that you have a main call to action that's clear on your homepage. So whether that's to shop with you, to sign up for your CSA, etc. You'll want to make sure that you're writing short and concise paragraphs, so 3 to 5 sentences. You'll want to include more information when it comes to your about page and your growing practices. Like Brandon was saying, transparency is key for organic growers, so you don't want to leave anything up for question. And an FAQ page is also great for elaborating on topics like this. And then for SEO, you'll want to make sure you're focusing on keywords that your customers can be searching for and just repeating them throughout your site on every page. You'll want to make sure that you're using alternative text for your images. So most web editors have this feature when you're uploading images. Um, Sorry, excuse me, give me 1 second. You'll want to use plain and simple language when you're thinking of alternative text for an image. So, for example, a farm worker putting local veggies into a box for a customer can be as simple as that. And then utilizing internal links throughout your site. So, for example, if you're talking about a beef product, making sure you're linking to that product, or if you're referring to your FAQ page, making sure you're linking to that. And then you'll want to utilize headings for your text. So, highlighting and changing your text to like H1 and H2 headings to organize your information will help with SEO, and that'll just help Google understand your content and the purpose of each of your pages. And then you'll want to make sure that your site is mobile friendly. A lot of users are going to be accessing it from their smartphones. So you'll want to make sure that your content is structured to be viewed vertically, making sure you're always viewing your website in mobile and desktop view when you're making any edits. And then you'll want to make sure that your buttons are big enough and the text within the buttons are big enough for excuse me, a phone screen viewing. And then you'll want to make sure that you're optimizing your images for quick loading times, which I'll talk a little bit more about on the next slide. So with consistency, you'll want to make sure that you're staying consistent in your brand voice, your logo, your colors, your fonts, and your image sizes. And so referring more to the going back to optimizing images for quick loading times, we have a resource post on that as well, on not only choosing good images for your farm website, but also optimizing them for site speed, which is something that's really helpful for SEO as well. And then I just want to encourage you to not use overlay text on images or use any like text embedded images because search engines can't crawl or index that text as easily. And so they could miss key information, which could then negatively impact your ranking. And then last but not least, make sure your website is reflecting your brand. And so utilizing design choices that reflect your brand style and values, and just remembering that colors can make people feel a certain way. And so do your colors match how you want people to feel when they think of or visit your farm? And then including your logo in a prominent spot. So the top left corner is typically a good place, and also including it in the footer to really help visitors easily recognize your brand. And then you'll want to tailor your content to really tell your farm's story, highlighting those unique qualities, whether it's, family heritage or your commitment to regenerative agriculture or something else. Again, those are things that we repeat. Sorry, as farmers, those are things that you probably repeat to yourself all the time and think that they're boring or not super important. But again, they're really important to your customers who are really wanting to like spend a lot with you, but want to trust you in your farm or how you grow first before they decide to buy from you. Okay, so let's move on to some more direct to consumer marketing channels that you can leverage. I'm going to be touching on some more physical marketing, email, social, paid ads, and some more SEO. So starting off with physical marketing materials, think about things like brochures, business cards, recipe cards, etc. For the sake of time, I'm not going to go into these tips, but if you're feeling inspired to DIY print materials for your farm, feel free to go through these suggestions and play around with some of these free design tools that I've listed here on the right. And then moving into email marketing, which is definitely one of the most important tools. And a lot of my clients ask me frequently if it's worth it to do email marketing, or if people even read their emails. And believe it or not, email remains one of the most effective tools for engaging audiences, but only when it's done with intention. So, a couple facts, on average, 20 to 40% of your revenue can be driven by email marketing, especially if you have an optimized plan or strategy in place. All target groups still open emails. It's pretty cost effective, and it keeps things really conversational and segmented with your audience. Of course, choosing the right platform is going to be super important. So I've listed some key things to consider. And again, we have another resource post on this if you want help figuring out which platform is going to be best for you. I've got some of my top recommendations for email platforms. You can read more about them in the resource post that I mentioned. I'll just go through them quickly here. Klaviyo is the gold standard for e-commerce, especially if you're using Shopify. They integrate really seamlessly. MailChimp is a great option as well, especially for Squarespace, because that doesn't natively integrate with Klaviyo. And then if you're working with Gracecart, Drip is great in conjunction with Yeti Text, which will give you that SMS feature because Drip no longer offers SMS. And then MailChimp also integrates with Gracecart, but it doesn't pull enough data to do like full e-commerce email automations. So that's just something to keep in mind. And then a quick start for email marketing. There's a lot I could say. For the sake of time, I'm just going to briefly go over some key tips for success. So, making sure you're keeping things segmented, grouping your subscribers into interest groups, keeping things consistent, crafting compelling subject lines and preview text, because that's what's really going to engage the user to open your email at all. Making sure that you're keeping character counts low on those subject line and preview texts, especially for viewing on like mobile phones. Using alternative text for images within those emails, like I mentioned, doing for your website, making sure you have clear calls to action in your emails, and then thinking about automated campaigns. So for email and SMS messages, um, some automations to consider are things like a multi-part welcome series, abandoned cart series, lost prospects, and then pruning or what we like to call sunset flows to keep your list clear of unengaged subscribers and keep your open rates high. Making sure your emails are optimized for mobile. A lot of users are going to be accessing your emails on their smartphone. And then work smarter, not harder. So we always encourage our clients to utilize their marketing, their email marketing or their newsletter content for things like social media or your Google business page, which I'll talk more about soon, or for the blog on your website to really expand your reach and stretch your content. Oop, let's go back here. Sorry about that. Okay, social media is really wonderful, but I also think that people spend a lot of time and sometimes too much time spinning their wheels on a social media strategy when they don't even have a strong foundation. And so, just a reminder to really optimize your website and dial in your email marketing before you start investing a ton of time and energy into socials. And then when you're ready to start thinking about leveraging social media, it's definitely a great tool to engage your customers directly, reach new customers, and of course, have a little fun with trends if that's something you're interested in. And then for the sake of time, I'm going to skip over this, but again, this is something you can come back and read on your own time once we send out the presentation. I did just want to share a couple examples of a strong bio for someone's Instagram and also some highlights that we have branded for a previous client. These can be really great for providing key information about your business to people landing on your page for the first time. So think of it as similar to your homepage on your website. And these are just some examples of categories that you could consider including and adding content to each of these highlights on your Instagram. And then, as promised, I'm going to touch on a few more things that you can do to improve your SEO. And I'm just going to go through these pretty quickly so that we have time to do the live web audit. So, it's something that has a small lift but a big impact on SEO is claiming and optimizing your Google business profile or creating one if you don't already have one. We have a resource post again on how to do this to find out more information if you want to visit our website and check that out. And then collecting reviews on that Google listing is really going to help with your credibility in search rankings as well. And some ideas to collect more would be considering including like a permanent call to action on your newsletter template with a link for people to leave a review, as well as a call to action on your website. Or you could consider running like a discount where you send out an automated email and SMS text where people get a discount if they leave a Google review. Um, if you're at farmers markets, you could also have a physical card with a QR code that people can scan to leave you a review. And if they do, you can offer them a discount if you want. Or if you're just getting started and you don't have any reviews, you could reach out to a handful of your loyal customers, asking them to kindly leave you a review to help spread the word about your farm. And then displaying these reviews on your homepage on your website is also a great idea for new customers landing on your site with credibility and again for SEO. And then some more on-page SEO elements. I already touched on using headers. It's also important to focus on things like SEO titles and descriptions. You can find these options in most website platform editors in the back end of the page settings. And then I touched on this as well, but creating digital resources can be a great tool for leveraging SEO. So think of those blogs that I mentioned, something like a produce guide on your website, YouTube videos, an FAQ page, all great things to provide your customers with useful information. And then getting other sites to link to your site is great for improving search engine rankings as well. These are also known as backlinks. So taking some time to consider directories that you could be on and reach out to ask if you can be listed on them. And then quickly, once I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I want to get to our live website audit. But if you've done all of those suggestions, so you've optimized your website, you've dialed in your SEO and your email marketing, and you've polished up your social profiles, but you're still ready for new customers or you're wanting to expand your reach, this is my number one recommendation for increasing sales. Meta ads can really help your farm saturate your local audience and increase your sales. And then say you've done that and you're ready to expand to the next thing. Maybe you're offering nationwide shipping and you're ready to expand regionally or nationwide. At that time, Google Ads are a good thing to consider. All right, and without further ado, I'm going to transition to sharing my screen of the Blossom Bluff website. And so I just wanted to thank Bryce from Blossom Bluff Orchards for being brave and volunteering his site for this live audit. I'm hoping that this will help solidify a lot of the information that I just shared and provide a tangible example. So I hope everyone's able to walk away with some valuable steps that you can take to optimize your website and online presence. And so as you can see here, Blossom Bluff has some really great calls to action on their homepage. So we've got this great button that's encouraging us to shop their fruit. And then down here, that's encouraging us to go deeper and learn more about their farm. So I think they have a really solid foundation with a lot of organized information that's easy to navigate. And so you can see up here, they've just got four really clean and concise tabs. I do think there is a little bit of area of room for improvement on information to just bring clarity to the customer experience, as well as some organizational changes to highlight your products more, plus a few additions that could really improve your SEO. And so starting here at the top, instead of saying something like welcome to Blossom Bluff Orchards, you could start to consider more of those keywords that I mentioned. So, for example, using something like California grown or certified organic fruit, or whatever you feel like is a good tagline that really defines your business, your products, or your mission. Um, this photo up here is great, but you could expand it to really avoid blank space and just be a little bit more engaging. And then you could add a shop page to your main navigation. You have this order button now, which is great, but I would recommend formatting it like you have some of your other tabs up here. And then you could add a shopping feed to your homepage with more information about it below on like how people can shop with your farm. And I'll show you an example of a website at the end of what I mean by a shopping feed. You could also add the product information here that you have on your homepage um, to something like your shop page with all of that information. And so um, you'll probably want to reorganize this shop page. I'm gonna go here now. Um, to just be more engaging with your products. And so I would maybe create some categories, maybe for your sun-dried products versus your dehydrated products. And then you could make these product images bigger with just the product name and the price. And then people can click into the product to find out more information, which is where you would then include these product descriptions that you have here. And then making sure your product photos aren't blurry and that they're all cropped to the same size. If you were to change up your content, you'll want to make sure that they stay the same size and that they're optimized for fast loading times. Um, and then you have this wonderful What We Grow page. But you want to make sure that you're linking to each of these products from this page to give people more opportunity to take action and to include some of those internal links that I mentioned. So, say I'm reading about your apricots and they sound amazing. Now I want to go buy some. I'll be able to take action right away if you link to the product. And it's not super clear how and where you can buy your products. So, do you ship nationwide? Are you at a farmer's market? Do you have local pickup? Um, Adding a where to shop page to house this information could be great. And then adding something like a blog. If you have a newsletter that you send out weekly or monthly, this could be a great space to just recycle that content and add it to your site. Um, a contact us page could be great as well. So people don't have to scroll all the way down here to find this tiny email icon. And they can just contact you easily. And then let's see here, an email pop-up form to capture people into your sales funnel and add a CTA to sign up for your newsletter would be really great. And then you could have a place on your homepage and in the footer here to encourage people to sign up for that newsletter. Um, and then, like I mentioned with reviews, adding a feed of customer reviews to your homepage could be great, as well as adding up here in your main navigation an FAQs page. And then adding more key information to your footer so that people have it no matter what page they're on. So your logo could be just a little bit bigger, like a similar size to what you have up here, just right down here at the bottom. You could add your farm name as actual text to help SEO recognize it a little bit better. Um, you could use some of those key phrases like California grown fruit in your mission statement down here. You could link to your shop page with information on how people can shop with you. Again, you can include the newsletter sign up down there, a link to the contact page. And then just wanted to note that your Instagram link does seem to be broken. And so just making sure that that's working properly and linked to your profile properly. Um, and then last thing that I can't see on my end is just in the back end, making sure you're checking SEO titles and descriptions, as well as making sure you have alternative text for all of the images on your site. And then I'm going to switch to sharing this website of a previous client of ours that has all of these key components that I just mentioned. And so I know I talked about a shop feed that's going to look something like this, where they've just got the big product photos, the name of the product, the price, and then if you click into it, you're able to see more of the information there. Again, they've got a clean navigation where they've housed other additional pages underneath these accordions to keep things nice and organized. And then they also have more about how they grow. They've got this call to action to sign up for their newsletter, and then they've got a feed for customer reviews. They've got a blog. And then down here, they've got that really optimized footer that I mentioned with all of that key information. Okay, with that, I'm going to stop there. I hope that was helpful, and I look forward to hopefully connecting with some of you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Oh, is that you, Sharon Brandon?
Yes, sorry. I'm going to
Yeah.
hand it over to Brandon to finish us off. Thank you, Guido.
Okay, sure.
Sorry about that. I'm going to skip ahead. Okay, Guido, you want to go ahead and launch the survey? And we'll try to do this in just a minute or two, and then we'll answer. We got about three really good questions I want to touch on before we log off.
I don't see people answering. Can folks in our participant list confirm they are seeing the poll? You can do it via chat. Can you let us know if yes? Okay. Currently, we have 0 out of 30, but it might take them a minute or two. So I'm glad it's there. There you go. Now we're getting some answers. All right, we have six answers. Should I end the poll?
Sure, yeah, we got about 25%. Not bad.
Nice. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you everyone for answering the questions. We really appreciate it.
There's some more coming in. I don't want to cut anyone off. All right. Closing in now. So yeah, the results are here.
Okay. All right, great. And Guido, you can send those to me afterwards.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. All right. I don't know why this keeps coming up. So we're gonna answer a few questions really quickly. Let's see. Sorry. Brooklyn, can you pull up the Q&A box?
Yes.
We had one question about what's a good open percentage for engagement.
Yes, that was a great question. I answered it here on the chat, but also happy to answer it live. I would aim for about 25 to 30% open rates with an engaged audience. Of course, being in the like 40 to 50% range is even better, but I think sometimes people think it has to be higher than that, but that's typically where you want to sit for an engaged audience.
Thanks.
Mhm.
And then there was another question about CSA member only events. Would you mind reading that question out?
Yeah, let me see if I can find this. Um, I don't know if I know which one you're talking about. I see one about insurance for bringing public onto the farm. And then is there a special customer CSA extra charge or included in the cost of
Hmm.
CSA? Is that the one?
Yeah. Someone asked about the CSA member only event. So I think it really depends on the event. So for me, I tried to make sure that there were events that were sort of included in the cost of the CSA. So like our harvest festival, that was part of the CSA. It was like bring your family out, bring your kids out, see the farm. Um, for something like a dinner, I would a CSA member only dinner, I would market it to your CSA, but then still have CSA customers purchase tickets for that. A dinner is going to be a lot more cost heavy than just like a harvest festival at your farm. So I think it really depends on the event. And then I did have a specific volunteer share, so you would get a slight discount if you volunteered for X amount of shifts throughout the CSA season. So that was like a discounted CSA price. And then there was a question about crop planning. So obviously that's a whole other webinar, a whole other topic about crop planning for a CSA. Um, but I will just mention that really think about what crops people can use every week. So if you have lettuce in your box every single week, people are probably going to use lettuce every single week and probably not complain about it. If you have radish in your box every single week, I think people might get kind of sick of and burnt out on radishes. So for me, I would do radishes only in the spring, couple weeks of radishes, and then we're done. Um, Carrots, you can probably do that like every other week, and no one's going to complain. So really, just think about it crop by crop in terms of the rotation. And then, uh, yeah, and any other questions about that, just reach out to me. There's a lot of good crop planning software out there too that can help you with that. And then the last question was about insurance.
Yeah.
So I won't go too much into insurance. I'm not an insurance expert. I would say reach out to your insurance provider, assuming you have some sort of liability insurance for your farm. If you're having the public on the farm, I would definitely recommend some sort of general liability insurance. Um, if you're having like specific events, like, you know, my harvest festival had like a cider press. So that's like a dangerous piece of equipment. So I would have everyone sign a waiver. And then if you have you pick or volunteer days, definitely make sure those participants are signing waivers. Um, and then beyond that, yeah, I would just recommend reaching out to your insurance company or your insurance provider. Um, a lot of times with either like a festival or like a U-Pick, you can do what would be called as like event insurance, but that event, like the U-Pick, is over like the span of a season. Um, but again, I'm not an expert on that, so reach out to whoever your insurance provider is.
Cool. Thank
Yeah.
you. Okay,
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
unfortunately, we don't have any more time. We need to go. We're super grateful to our panelists, Brandon and Brooklyn, for putting this together. I know it's a dense topic, but we can also follow up. Of course, they provided their information, and you will get the recording, like I said in the beginning of this workshop, to rewatch it if you have any doubts. There's also the full marketing toolkit that they presented. So, yeah, thank you so much. We'll see you in the next workshop and on our farmer gatherings all over the state. Have a good one.